the northeast, but we've got this area of cloud and rain sinking south across central Scotland. Brighter skies to the north of it, but feeling colder, 6 to 8 Celsius for the Northern Isles. Then into Saturday, any brighter but colder weather in the far north tends to disappear once again as higher pressure builds in, pushing the weather front northeastwards and bringing milder but cloudier weather across the whole of the country. So the weekend offers more of the same. A lot of cloud, 1 or 2 brighter spells from time to time, relatively mild for the time of year.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Big problems along a couple of stretches of the M1 this evening. First of all, heading south through South Yorkshire. The inside lane's coned off from junction 33 to 32 from the Sheffield set-off down to the M18 where a car's broken down. And on the northbound carriageway further south through Derbyshire, the inside lane's blocked off just before junction 28, the A38 Alfreton-Mansford exit at the scene of a collision. On the western stretch of the M25, the 2 inside lanes are blocked off clockwise just before the M40 recovery works underway following an accident causing long delays, and the Essex stretch is blocked clockwise just after the M11 where a car has broken down. Queues back through the Belcommon Tunnel. And finally in East London, Woodford Avenue at Redbridge blocked for accident investigation work, and trains are suspended through Cornwall and St Erth and St Ives. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving you the chance to win everything you need to celebrate the festivities. There's £20,000 and £25 in tax-free cash. There's £5,000 to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £500 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag will get it all to you in time for the big day. For your chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Mada Pasa, who is the Afghan that's been living for some years in Sweden. You know the guy with the Kalashnikov tattooed on his cheek, the guy that's threatened to kill me. I've every reason to believe he's crossed the English Channel today. And yet, the Home Office won't confirm whether he's here or not. I am pretty appalled. We'll discuss budget fallout. Rachel Reeves gets a big commendation from the International Monetary Fund, but it seems that right across the board, including even The Guardian, the newspapers are not happy with this budget and not bullish for what it means for the economy. And we're going to go to America. We simply have to, where garbage is dominating the whole election. But hey, we're just 5 days away. Who is actually going to win? But before all of that, let's get the news with Mark White.
Good evening. The main headlines from the GB News Centre. The Chancellor has tonight defended her budget, which amounts to the biggest tax hike in a generation. Rachel Reeves told GB News that the £40 billion a year in extra tax was a one-off. It would, she said, fix the fiscal black hole and provide a shot in the arm for the public services.
This is a one-off budget. It is to wipe the slate clean and fix the foundations after the black hole we were left by the Conservatives. But we're not going to need to come back in another budget and do anything like this again. We have now taken the action to get our public finances on a stable path. And, Chris, we've set the spending envelope for the rest of this Parliament, so we don't need to come back for more. And, indeed, we've moved to annual budgets rather than having them twice a year. So families and business can have confidence. We're not going to come back and ask for more money in the spring like the Conservatives kept doing. We have now set the budgets for public spending for this Parliament.
The Spanish government has confirmed the death toll from the devastating floods in the country has now risen to 158. Rescue efforts are continuing as authorities deal with the worst flooding in the country in decades. Dozens of people are still missing after huge areas were inundated in the eastern province of Valencia. It's from there that Sophie Reaper sent this report.
Here in central Valencia, it's a very different story to the one taking place in the city's outskirts, where the destruction is massive. The clean-up operation is well underway, and that death toll continues to rise. And that may well not be the end of things. The Spanish Prime Minister is warning people to stay at home because the danger may not yet have passed. And the Spanish forecaster has suggested that over the coming days, there may well be further heavy rain.
A 61-year-old grandfather who was found dead in prison after he was convicted for rioting died as a result of hanging. An inquest at Doncaster Coroner's Court was told Peter Lynch was found dead in his cell at HMP Moorland in South Yorkshire earlier this month. Mr Lynch was jailed following violent disorder outside a migrant hotel in August. A prolific shoplifter has been banned from wearing wigs after numerous attempts to disguise herself while committing thefts. Gloucestershire police have confirmed that Hannah Roberts had donned a variety of hair pieces to get around a shoplifting ban in Gloucester city centre. The 33-year-old had been banned by the City Safe scheme from entering multiple shops, but had repeatedly ignored the sanction. I'd have thought the neck tattoo may have given it away. Anyway, you're right up to date with the headlines. Now it's back to Nigel.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. I promise you, this story is not just about me, although I happen to be in the middle of it. But it raises some really serious issues about our borders, about some of the people that are coming into our country illegally, and about the fact that if they come from certain original destinations, we simply can't get rid of them. You may remember a couple of weeks back, I talked about the case of a guy called Mada Pasa, and he got in trouble. He was arrested in Malmo for carrying a knife. He fled the country and decided on TikTok he'd chart his journey to England via Germany, via Calais. And I posted some of this to say, do we really want people like this? This was Mada Pasa's response to me 2 weeks ago.
Englishman, Nigel Pasa, don't talk about me. You not know me. I come to England because I want to marry with your sister. Don't talk about me more. I gonna come to England. I gonna mother.
Well, I think it's pretty clear what Mada Pasa meant. Now, since then, we've been trying to work out where he is. He posted a picture of a Waitrose in Bournemouth, but without him in it. But it's pretty clear he didn't manage to cross the channel. There were a couple of aborted attempts. But this morning, at about 7:30 a.m, this video was taken.
Hey, hela UK after me folket. Kola fem butter after me folket. Zumbetat mo dapat kola dar. Daar.
That is not a fake. That is a genuine video of him in a migrant boat with 50 or 60 other people, and you could see at the beginning of that shot the French naval vessel. Yes, that's right. The French Navy, this morning, have been escorting somebody across to our 12-mile line who's threatened to kill a British Member of Parliament. After the 500 million quid we'd paid them, you would have thought they might just be able to do better than that. I've asked the Home Office, the police, is it true that he's arrived? Have you taken him into custody? Is he being questioned? I haven't even had the courtesy of an answer from the Home Office. I guess my real concern is that unless he has been taken away and put behind a locked door, he will simply abscond. But here's the worst part. Because originally he comes from Afghanistan, we will not send him back to Afghanistan because we don't deem that to be a safe country, even though Germany are now sending planes back to Afghanistan. It could be, if he has permanent leave to remain in Sweden, that they'll take him. I don't know. I'm struck that if he's here, he'll be here for a very long time and possibly cost us a huge amount of money. Now, I'm joined now by human rights lawyer Dr. Shoaib Khan. Shoaib, I know you spoke about this issue a couple of weeks ago, and you thought it might be a good thing at the time if he came to our country and faced justice here. Is that still your opinion?
It is, yes. I mean, obviously, that's a rule of law, or, you know, the point of view from the legal point of view. And so, of course, I mean, I think even now, like you're saying, you know, obviously the Home Office hasn't replied to you. We don't really know. Obviously, you're saying that video isn't fake. I mean, I don't know if we can be sure about that or what that means. But I mean, even if he is here or he has arrived, I mean, I think it would be good, since we are talking about him so much. And since we are giving him, I mean, I'm not sure why we're giving him so much importance anyway, but, you know, so we've had whole talk shows just, you know, talking about him. And I'm guessing that's probably what he wanted in the first place. So I'm not sure, you know, we should be giving oxygen.
I tell you why we're covering him. Because there's so many people in the human rights industry like yourself and across centre-left mainstream media who tell us there are poor, innocent people crossing the English Channel, when the fact is there are plenty of young men who wish us harm. And that's why I put this story out. I mean, we don't want this bloke in our country. Shouldn't we just simply get rid of him immediately?
No, not immediately. I mean, let's see what he has to say. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. That's just like saying someone who's already been here or someone who's British. You know, for instance, if it was a British person, a non-immigrant in the UK, and he made the same threat, is that what we would do, just get rid of him? I mean, I think, you know, there's this mentality about, you know, send someone into exile, drag them to the end of town. I mean, I think that's quite medieval, isn't it? I mean, hopefully, you know, we're a bit more civilized than that. But, you know, we've developed, you know, we have progressed a bit more than that. So to think, you know, we have courts, we have police, we have the CPS. You know, so yes, I mean, if we think the CPS, like you said, you know, I did speak about it previously, and the point was, well, in fact, yes, we don't trust our police, we don't trust our courts, we don't trust the CPS. Then I think that's the main issue here. We have to, you know, invest in those and develop and improve those systems. Because if we don't, then, you know, that's a really bad thing. Generally, that's a sad indictment of where we are as a country if we don't trust our legal system. But the point is, if otherwise, yes, if someone who's made these death threats, you know, potentially a criminal offense, then yes, let's see what this legal system, how the legal system deals with them, what he has to say for himself, rather than saying, you know.
I think we know what will happen. Even if he goes to prison for a few months, he'll be here for the rest of his life and probably do us no good. Shoaib, thank you for giving us your view. Well, Shoaib not changed his mind at all on that, but I emphasise, I don't doubt his ability, but he is part of the human rights industry. I am joined in the studio by Oscar Redrop, former special advisor to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and Susie Stride, political commentator. Welcome back, Susie. This issue, Oscar, when you were there with Boris in number 10, it was just beginning to explode, wasn't it? It was just beginning. It was in 2020 when I first went out into the channel to say, guys, we've got a problem. And it must have been in your time there that we had the Lid Airport event, the Rwanda scheme was launched. But even when you guys tried, that plane couldn't leave the runway because of a judge in Strasbourg. And still I see the Conservative Party leadership battle, you know, split down the middle in a sense over this business of the ECHR?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And there were some real, at times, cut-through moments where I think the Conservatives, when they were in power, thought they were making a bit of headway. I remember watching your videos down in, Dover, and it probably sent shivers down a lot of Conservative spines because you were really tapping into something that, the vast majority of people in this country want sorted. And I think Rwanda, in some ways, we were getting close, because we did need that deterrent. I still think we need that deterrent. I thought Lord Sumption wrote a brilliant piece and a brilliant case for leaving the ECHR, and actually the importance.
Very powerful.
It really was very powerful, and actually leaving something, creating something in its place, and actually being really pragmatic and saying, actually, it's not just enough to leave. We have to then form something really solid in its place. And you see instances, and I know, it's not about you, actually, and you're right to say that, like today, and we see these really high profile instances of people coming into this country and, communities feeling really on edge, and rightly so, about, who comes into this country illegally. And it will take real strong action. And that's why I think Rob Jenrick, I think he is probably right to ask that question of the party, and it will be a question for the party, whoever wins, the ballot's closed today. And I'm sorry, and I'm really sorry to say this, and I'm not just going to bash the Labour Party just for the sake of it, because that's boring for viewers, and I'll bore myself doing it. But I have no faith. Smash the gangs is a catchphrase, and that's as deep as it goes.
No, and actually, I think the point, Susie, is that this issue caused the last Conservative government huge political problems. It's going to start to cause your party problems too. I mean, what would you do with a bloke like Madapasa? Do you think he should stay if he's here?
No, I mean, I don't. And I think also the thing that's concerning about this is there's two things. First of all, there are genuine asylum seekers that come to this country. For example, my mum works with refugees, and you've got people coming over from Iran who literally, you've got women and men who, if they go, they're going to be tortured or killed, for various reasons, possibly because they're faith or because, or whatnot. So people like this, aggressive, pretty nasty, undermine, for me, those that truly actually do need to seek asylum here. I think on the immigration issue more widely, and I've said this time and time again, that the Labour Party, look, they know, and they need to know, but I think they know that this is a top issue for people, and we have to be humble, and we have to listen and know this is a big concern for people, and you have to get to grips with it.
But Oscar makes the point that smash the gangs doesn't mean anything.
Well, yes, there's a few things. Well, I'm not agreeing with that. I think it means something. I think ultimately, I don't think anyone actually has the answer on this at the moment. I haven't heard anyone, and if they did, they'd probably be on this show and they'd be talking about it, and maybe, there'd be good policy on it. I've not heard anyone come out with what is the answer on this, because it is complex.
I'll tell you what we do. Send him back to Afghanistan. Get rid of him.
That's an individual, and look, I agree with you. I think, if someone came to this country and was threatening my mum, I'd be like, send him back home, So look, I don't disagree with you on that, but there's this wider issue, isn't there, about immigration, and it is complex, and I don't think anyone's yet come up with a solution. I don't think the solution is purely, tackle the gangs, though that is part of it. And, I think it's one of those things where we're going to have to watch this space. However, what I would agree with you on is we are going to be judged on this. And I would be baffled if, the Labour Party don't know that. I think they do know that. I think the government do know that.
We've gone through 30,000 people this year that have crossed the Channel so far.
Yeah.
That's more than came in the whole of 2023. It all depends on the weather over the course of the next 9.5 weeks. We could be 45,000, we could be more. I just don't know. I don't see any sign of it stopping. The only thing that slows it down is if they can't get hold of enough dinghies. Back to ECHR. Rob Jenrick, strong position, trying to sound a bit like me, but he's going to lose.
Well,
I think we do. I think we do. So the grandees of the Tory party have said, no, we're not going to do that. And actually, I think this issue is going to give you as many problems in opposition as it is Labour in government.
Yeah, well, it'll be the internal. We'll be probably talking to ourselves about it till the cows come home, and it will split people down the middle. I think the one thing, and this is almost a question for you, Nigel, in many ways, because obviously you are a huge stakeholder in this, but is almost strategically, because there will be an absolute absence of anything, of any real commitment or substance from the Labour Party, can strategically, whoever leads the Tory party, actually just hang back a little bit, let Labour kind of fail, and I know that's not the purest thing in the world to say, but politics isn't always...
Well, I understand it, Oscar, but the problem is that you spent the last 4 years fighting with each other in public constantly, and, well, maybe that will change, maybe it won't.
But look, can I just... One thing, and he may not be the leader of the Conservative Party, but Rob said something quite powerful, and whoever takes over should heed this lesson, I think, which is that the general public do not want to hear from the Tory party unless they can present a genuine, committed, proper solution to the problem.
So no more public bickering.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to come for them,
and you will. For everybody.
I think so.
I will. You're right. You will. Well, I'll conclude that piece by saying, you know, we don't want people like this in our country. What positive value is this bloke going to add over the course of his lifetime to our country? Absolutely none, and possibly be very, very negative. He should not, if he's here, be allowed to stay. Oh, and Home Office, hello. I would like to know whether someone that's threatened to kill me is here. Frightfully nice of you. When you get 2 minutes, do let me know. In a moment, more fallout from the budget. Even the Guardian newspaper did not like the Rachel Reeves budget. What does it all mean? Is it just a little storm in a teacup, or is there a big problem brewing in financial markets?
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
Really good to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first.
Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour, so...
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
No, it's salty, yeah.
It's
okay,
salty.
hang on, bit more.
Okay.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy, it's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. Cheese and onion.
Yes, nailed it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, no one said it was going to be easy, and certainly it has not been easy for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. The newspapers, with the exception, I think, of the Daily Mirror, all gave her a very hard time today, including Labour supporting ones. But this afternoon, our Christopher Hope, our political editor, caught up with Rachel Reeves This is one of the most important things that she said.
This is a one-off budget. It is to wipe the slate clean and fix the foundations after the black hole we were left by the Conservatives. But we're not going to need to come back in another budget and do anything like this again. We have now taken the action to get our public finances on a stable path. And, Chris, we've set the spending envelope for the rest of this Parliament, so we don't need to come back for more. And, indeed, we've moved to annual budgets rather than having them twice a year. So families and business can have confidence. We're not going to come back and ask for more money in the spring like the Conservatives kept doing. We have now set the budgets for public spending for this Parliament.
Well, there we are. I'm joined down the line by veteran economist and former advisor to Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Patrick Minford. Patrick, welcome to the programme. I have to begin by asking you, has Rachel Reeves fixed the foundations?
Certainly not. The House is in a dreadful state, to be quite honest, and the prospects for growth are absolutely nil. She's done everything wrong, really, and not unlike, unfortunately, her predecessor, Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt, who did equally badly, really. So we've still got the same picture of taxes rising endlessly, growth being endlessly denied, essentially, by an economy that just doesn't look attractive to entrepreneurs and businesses at all. You know, not content with raising taxes, they've just increased regulation on the labour market, so giving unions more powers. It's all quite extraordinary. And they then say they're absolutely determined to have growth. I mean, you could have fooled anybody, couldn't you?
And yet, Patrick, we woke to the news. I heard the early morning news, and the esteemed International Monetary Fund, based in Washington, D.C., think it's a good budget and it's going to bring stability.
Well, you know, I mean, the IMF are just hopeless at every level, aren't they? So, I mean, they disapprove of anything to do with enterprise. I mean, they're another left-wing agency, aren't they, of the international community? So I wouldn't take any notice of anything they say.
Patrick, if you'd been in charge yesterday, and given that we are in a pretty dire state, we're in economic decline, the debt gets bigger every year, gross domestic product per capita has fallen for the last couple of years fairly consistently, growth has been abysmal. What's the one big thing that you think a Chancellor could do right now that would at least begin to turn things around?
Well, the first thing is to commit to low taxes and to grit your teeth and let the economy recover so that it generates growth. And once it generates growth, that itself solves the public finances problems because the revenue starts to come in. What they're doing is constantly hitting the economy when it's down so that the chances of revenue coming in get worse and worse every time. So the whole thing needs to be rebooted, and growth needs to be put first, and the tax and the environment for that needs to be put into place. That would mean getting rid of all this pro-union regulation they've just put in, but also stopping raising taxes and actually cut the key ones, the key top marginal rates of tax that affect entrepreneurs and businessmen. I mean, the first thing to do would be to get rid of the top rate, which is 45%, bring it right down to 40. And bring it right down, I mean, to 30, essentially. And
Patrick,
and get rid of all the top marginal rates.
These were things that worked in the 80s. They're not on the agenda right now, but thank you for giving us your thoughts. Susie, Patrick there, I mean, whatever you think of Patrick's economics, he makes the point about growth. What I thought was the most dismal part of the budget yesterday is even the Chancellor's own, and with the OBR's projections, are that in years 4 and 5 of this government, growth will only be 1.5%. It's not good, is it?
I mean, look, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, first of all, the top line. I am appalled by our national newspapers. It's just,
Are you?
Yes, I am. I'm
you can't take criticism.
can I just say, no, it's not about criticism. It's so like, if my son said to me, oh, Mum, what are the newspapers saying? Like, is this factual? It's just so biased and it's so right-wing biased.
What,
and
The Guardian? Are you calling The Guardian
Well, The Guardian's
right-wing?
just a hard... I mean, I don't know what's going on with The Guardian. It's just a disgrace. The only newspaper I feel like I'd read is The Mirror. But you know what? I genuinely don't mind. I don't mind real criticism or challenge. Throw criticism, throw challenge. I don't agree with everything the Labour Party does at all. But, like, you know... I just looked at those front pages of those newspapers and I just thought, oh, it's just so infuriating. But let's just leave that to one side. One day maybe we'll have reform of, you know, the press in this country so we have just a little bit more democracy and truth.
Oh, hang on.
Yes, Nigel, I'm sorry, you can't say that you love this country and that you believe in democracy and you think that
I think we've got the best newspapers in the world.
Do you? Well, all owned by like billionaires and people that are right-wing.
We've got choice. We've got people like the Financial Times that supported the Euro and the European Union. We've got The Guardian. We've got The Mirror.
You named three.
We've got The Times that are certainly centre-left on many, many issues.
And local papers out there as well.
About 200 of those have gone in the last 10 years. But anyway...
Which is sad.
It's very sad.
I mean, you know, OK, I mean, clearly, you know, Susie's very hurt by the criticism.
I'm not hurt. I'm just talking about, good broadcasting.
What can I just quickly come in? What I would say on it is that, in a way, in a roundabout way, I get Susie's point in that when we talk about budgets, let's think about cut-through to people who do not obsess about this stuff on Twitter all day, every day. Yes, the markets, they take a few days and they'll make their judgment on it. Cool. People at home who are small business owners. The way we talk about business in this country is ridiculous. We think of them as these top hat wearing... You know, there will be people around the kitchen tables who, after that budget, who are scraping by, who are doing good in their communities, who are trying to employ young people, make things work, who will be terrified. And I've seen interviews on this channel, on other channels, of business owners who've come out today as a result of that budget. I mean, I saw someone on TV, a small business owner, break down in tears today. And I'm telling you now, if you're a Tory MP... speak to local businesses in your community, get a letter together, write to the government, you know, just on a purely campaign point. There'll be businesses who want your support and need you right now.
The problem is, what the government have done is they've opted for the public sector good, private sector to be punished. That's the problem.
I mean, look, look, I'm going to have to disagree with both of you guys on this. Look, I'm not saying there isn't certain things that I also don't agree with, actually, about the budget, and actually think, well, is that a good idea? But look, first of all, the Tory record is, you know, kids in porter cabins, NHS waiting lists, another level, prisons overflowing, river overflowing with sewage. No, but I'm just saying,
I agree.
That is, I mean, you know, for Rishi Sunak to get up and say what he was saying, I just thought, mate, be quiet. You know, your mini-budget destroyed loads of people's lives. Mortgages went through the roof. And Rachel Reeves...
We will end this on total disagreement.
History's going to look on this budget...
Maybe not Rishi.
I think history's going to look on this budget as a turnaround moment for this country. Stimulus, you know, you want to have a healthy economy, you've got to have schools that are healthy, the NHS thriving, and we haven't had that for 10 years.
Susie, I don't think that for a moment, but that's why we're here, to have free, open, energetic debate. In a moment, we're going to talk about Manston and what it's been costing to put people across the channel through there. But it's actually a bigger debate. As our taxes go up, just how much public money gets badly spent and wasted by both political parties. And I think that really is a huge issue we don't debate enough.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Next 24 hours bring more of the same sort of weather for many of us. Overcast, rain and wind in the far north, but some brighter spells at times elsewhere. There have been some brighter spells through the day. They're tending to remain in places overnight, but for the vast majority it stays cloudy and it's wet and windy in the far north of Scotland. Heavy rain moving into the mainland of northern Scotland as well as Orkney, the Outer Hebrides overnight, accompanied by a strong wind. That rain also reaching parts of northwest England and Northern Ireland, some drizzly stuff over the hills. Further south and further east, some cloud breaks, and where we do have some cloud breaks first thing, there'll be a few mist patches and temperatures in the single figures. And it will be a colder start for the far north of Scotland as the rain and wind clear through. The wind changes direction, so 5 Celsius there for Shetland. But otherwise, it's double figures for much of Scotland, with the strong wind continuing. A lot of low cloud for western Scotland, some cloud breaks in eastern Scotland, but rain tending to move south. Northern Ireland, Northern England, low cloud, some drizzle about. But for southern parts, we start the day with either cloudy skies or some fog patches first thing. any fog tending to clear. And then once again, those areas that saw some sunshine on Thursday are well placed to see sunny spells again on Friday. So the south and southwest, as well as the northeast. But we've got this area of cloud and rain sinking south across central Scotland. Brighter skies to the north of it, but feeling colder, 6 to 8 Celsius for the Northern Isles. Then into Saturday, any brighter but colder weather in the far north tends to disappear once again as higher pressure builds in, pushing the weather front northeastwards and bringing milder but cloudier weather across the whole of the country. So the weekend offers more of the same. A lot of cloud, 1 or 2 brighter spells from time to time, relatively mild for the time of year.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Court cases.
A presidential dropout.
Assassination attempts.
This has been a US election like no other.
And if the polls are correct, it's on a knife edge.
On Tuesday night, stay up with us as the drama unfolds and America decides their next president.
We'll discuss what it means for them, for the world, and for our special relationship. America Decides, Tuesday night from 11.
Only on GB News.
Well, another 564 people crossed the English Channel yesterday, with 4 more deaths, bringing us up to 60 deaths so far this year. A couple of hundred plus, maybe 300, have crossed the Channel again today, including possibly the chap we discussed earlier. Which, of course, gives us a massive problem, what to do, where to put people. But the astonishing story that's come out overnight is that the Home Office spent £19 million erecting 8 marquees outside the Manston migrant site and running those for a year, 18 months. And people saying, well, actually, you know, if you'd employed somebody else in the private sector, they could have done this for an absolute fraction of the money. And we keep hearing this story over and over and over. Somehow, when government gets involved with contracts, whether it's to do with COVID, whether it's to do with Manston, it feels like the taxpayer's getting extraordinarily bad value for money. Daniel Kaczynski, former Conservative MP, you know, everyone's tax is going up. And yet I can't help feeling, and you've been in Parliament, you've seen this, you've been close to this, I can't help feeling our money's getting spent terribly.
Absolutely, and I think that the state and civil servants and politicians are probably the worst people in society to manage major sort of services like this. We have to empower and trust the private sector, professionals who take risks in setting up their own companies and providing services. As long as we continue as the state to try to manage all of these things ourselves, we're not going to give the taxpayer value for money.
But the problem here is that in this particular case, with the whole migrant, you know, from there all the way through to hotel accommodation, private housing, what government does, it gives it out to private companies. I'm not going to mention those private companies. They don't need the lawyers on right at the moment. But if you look at the share prices of some of the companies that have got the contracts, they've made fortunes. So are you saying that it's the fault of the people giving out the contracts?
Well, there are some poor private sector companies, as there are some poor public sector operations. But I would argue my experience of having been a Conservative MP for 19 years is that probably the worst deliverer of value for money that I've come across in 19 years is the National Health Service. And there are many other state-run bodies which are not providing sufficient value for money for taxpayers.
That's a very interesting point, because, Susie, one of the sort of crowning pieces of the budget yesterday was Rachel Reeves announcing a lot more money for the National Health Service. But then, you know, the previous government, which these two were involved with, they pumped a lot more money into the National Health Service. And Daniel's point from 20 years in Parliament is we're not spending the money very well.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, you are going to have these problems, and it's a big problem because you're talking about taxpayers' money. I think on the NHS, you know, we're not just talking about investing money, we're actually talking about a whole lot of reform. And I think with Wes Streeting, we're also talking about things like good public health and digitalisation and all these different things that actually we weren't doing before. But coming back, look, on these things, when you have contracts going out, and for me, COVID's the big one, you know, and I can't remember how much you said, whether it was like 4 billion that could have been wasted on that. I mean,
was when the minister, Lord Agnew, resigned, he estimated at least 4 billion had gone in fraud.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, look, my question would be, I mean, obviously I'm not an MP, you know, and I clearly don't have much say over this except for what I'm going to say on this programme. Where is the accountability? You know, it's absolutely disgraceful. I love that Rachel Reeves said we're going to try and claw back some of that money. We're going to try and go after these people that made, you know, that lined their pockets because of the financial crisis not financial crisis, because of the COVID crisis. You know, but I would say the same about this. I mean, it's a disgrace.
Talking of accountability, Oscar, you were in...
I'm going to start that.
Number 10 down... No, we're going to go for this now. You were in number 10 Downing Street as a special advisor to the Prime Minister during the exact period when this huge sum of money was... Well, I'm not going to say wasted, but if you believe what people are saying, a huge amount of money was spent that didn't need to be spent. What say you?
I think I was just after that, so I'm just going to slightly pass the buck. No. I'll answer your question. What I would say is I think the Conservative Party massively forgot their roots and took their eye off the ball in terms of contracts and actually being responsible for taxpayers' money generally across the board. And I think partly we were punished for that ultimately in the end. You know, a lot of people say it's what the two leadership candidates are putting at the forefront of their campaigns, actually like make the Conservative Party conservative again. Because that's what it's about. And I think a lot of people forget, like, there isn't this, like, government money. It's like, you know, this mythical government.
It's our money.
It's your money. It's all yours money. It's all of our money. And I think if the Conservative Party want to get back on top, then they have to really treat that kind of golden rule with respect. Because we won't see it from the Labour Party. And I admit, I think the Tories very much took their eye off it as well.
I mean, you were there watching all of this. Did they take their eye off it, or just have they lost the instinct for this? Have they become so like Labour in many ways that we've kind of got a very technocratic attitude towards government? We're happy with government growing.
Well, the question I posed to Kemi Badenoch last night at a dinner is that, in front of many other people, is that our welfare budget this year is 258 billion. I go to ambassadors and I say to them, how much do you think we're spending on welfare this year? Most of them say between 8 and 20 billion. They are rather mystified when I tell them it's 258 billion. So when you've got debt interest payments of 110 billion and you've got welfare payments of 258 billion, that's, you know, a significant amount of money out of the window before you've built a single school, hospital or road. And what we need to do in order to be a competitive, thriving nation is to radically reduce the amount of benefits that are paid out. 22 million Britons today claim benefits.
Of some kind. In-work benefits as well as
I've tried to
benefits.
find a definitive list of all the hundreds of different types of benefits that people can claim. We're not going to compete against the Japanese and the Chinese.
It's going to be very...
have such massive welfare payments.
I mean, I had to come in on it, though,
Yeah, no,
because the thing is the benefits bill went up under the Conservative government.
Massively.
And this is the thing, look, you've got to get people back to work, but then you've got to have programmes that get people back to work. You've got to have programmes that upskill people. You've got to have an NHS where people, you know, are getting the right health care so that, you know, they're healthy enough to go back to work. You've got to have these schemes. And listen to me, I 100%... Look, my dad's always said this, you know, if you have people abusing the benefit system, that is a tax on the working poor. Forget the rich. They don't care. It's a tax on the working poor.
That's a very good
and we've
point.
got to deal with these issues. But just going back, you know, this thing about, again, going back to accountability, you know, that crisis of those contracts being handed out, again, I mean, that, again, happened under a Conservative government, not under Labour. So I'm not sure about us being tarnished with this brush.
No. Oscar's in far more trouble in this segment than you are, I can assure you. You've only just started.
But we've got to hold you to account. We're holding someone to account.
Fair enough. You talk about the budget, you talk about the bill. The Department of Work and Pensions themselves estimate that fraud within their department is running at £8 billion a year. But if that's what they say, it's probably 2 or 3 times that.
What frightens me more than anything else, and one big Labour donor said, well, you know, if all the millionaires are leaving Britain, who cares? Let them just let them just beep off, he said. The fact is, the brightest And the wealthiest of my friends have already left and are leaving to the United Arab Emirates. And one of them said to me,
Lots of people my age
one
as
of
well.
them said to me, these are the entrepreneurs. These are the people who build the factories and make investment for R&D and employ people. They said to me, he said, I pay 9% corporation tax on anything I earn over 90,000 in the Emirates. Can you match that?
Yeah, I know.
Of course we can't.
I know.
And as we take 30% of all revenue collected from the top 1%, think what would happen to our taxes if we lose the top 1%.
I am genuinely very, very worried about it. I'm also worried about young entrepreneurs leaving as well.
Yeah, but can I say on that, we do...
Very quickly. Last word. Come on, you get the last word.
We do. We have to change the culture in this country so we're not losing these people and there's not this brain drain. But I wonder whether we need to change the culture so it's like, you know, pride in this country. Are you proud to be from this country? You've got your education from this country. Invest in the next, you know, Tesla company or Google company like they do in America.
Yesterday's
We've
budget,
got to change the culture.
Yesterday's budget will force more to go abroad. Of that, I'm convinced. What the Farage moment? Ben Stokes, our heroic England captain, a proper alpha male if ever I saw one, was away in Pakistan on tour, house broken into by masked burglars, wife and children at home at the time, mercifully not hurt. An awful lot of things have been stolen, including this OBE, which Ben picked up at Buckingham Palace, and many other personal items. All I can say is it must be awful. You know, you're away, doing your job, this awful kind of thing happens. So if anybody possibly sees an OBE for sale on eBay, do let us know. We'd love to return it to the England cricket captain. In a moment, let's talk garbage. No, don't say you've had some of that already on the programme. Garbage is dominating the American debate. We'll tell you why in just a moment.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What about train Wi-Fi? The Times, it's so funny the Times did this story because I was on the train yesterday trying to do some work and connecting to the Wi-Fi and it happens all the time. It just doesn't work. It's pathetic. And then I opened the Times and they've done a massive investigation. Loads of different rail routes from north to south.
Was that the James Bond thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. What's
that passenger got through, or almost got through, one episode of one James Bond movie in 8 hours.
But you know, it's interesting. We call it train Wi-Fi, but it isn't. It's just really a SIM card on a train, really. So if your own phone's not going to get signal, why would we assume that the train's going to have signal? It just doesn't work like that. Unless you're in Japan or South Korea, whose infrastructure is infinitely better than ours, you're just not going to get signal. You have to download those films way before you get on
There is technology that can help with that. You know, there really is. If they found ways to put it underground, they can get it on ground and get you going. I definitely think, you know, with the price that we're paying for these tickets, they can get the Wi-Fi going. There is technology.
That's why it's so frustrating, isn't
Call
it?
Elon, get a Starlink. Let's go.
If you're a passenger paying hundreds of pounds for a season ticket or whatever you call it, and you know, commute to work every single day, and you're paying all this money, and you can't.
It's so expensive. You'd expect Wi-Fi at the basic. Yeah, exactly.
But it happens with phone signal as well. I'll be walking down London in Park Lane or somewhere else or down on the south coast. I just don't have phone signal, and I think to myself, what on earth is going on?
Doesn't it feel like 5G's made it worse, though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like 4G, that didn't happen so much, but 5G just feels like...
Yeah, and then I always get this little E in the top corner of my phone, and I don't get any signal. I think it's got worse over the past couple of years. Yeah, especially with 5G. I agree with that.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So it starts like this. It's a major Trump rally and a comedian's doing a warm-up and he tells a joke about Puerto Rico basically being a place that was absolutely full and floating on garbage. Didn't go down very well. Joe Biden was questioned over it and rather stupidly called Donald Trump supporters garbage. And the response from Trump, well, of course, it was to get into a refuse truck. But more than that, and very funny pictures, and more than that, he turns up at a rally in Wisconsin, and this is one of the things that he had to say.
And then I got in the car, and I'm driving over here, and I have this still on, and I come into the arena, and I say, where's my jacket? I want to get out of this thing. And they said, it would be unbelievable if you could wear it on stage. I said... And I said, no way. I got 25,000 people standing outside. I got all these people here. There's no way I'm wearing it on stage. They said, oh, okay, sir. I said, get me my jacket. But if you did, you know, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, oh. And they got me. I said, I want to wear it on stage. When they said I look thinner, I said, in that case, I'll wear it on stage.
Now, look, whether you love him or hate him, I don't think there's ever been a showman in Western politics quite like Trump. And I've been live to some of those rallies, and he is genuinely very, very funny. But he does not impress anybody, including some in his own party. John LeBoutillier, US political commentator and a former Republican congressman. And John, you're one of those people that just can't stand Donald Trump, and you're actually going to vote for Harris. Is that right?
I am a member, Nigel, of Republicans for Harris. Yes, there are several dozen Republican former congressmen. We are in a group called Republicans for Harris.
I mean, you know, Donald Trump would say that you're rhinos. You're not really Republicans. You never really were Republicans. You're not properly conservative. How would you respond to that charge? Because that's what he'd say.
Well, in all due respect to all of people who say that, I was a Republican congressman, the youngest in the Congress in 1980, elected with Ronald Reagan. I had the strongest pro-Reagan voting record in Congress that year, 2 years. Donald Trump was a Democrat back then. He gave money to Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. So you tell me, who's the rhino? I'm the Republican. 44 years ago, Donald Trump was a Democrat. But we can argue about it. I'm a conservative Reagan Republican. I am not a Trumper. But you were just on at the best debate. I got to see the end of it with the two folks on each side of you. Yeah. We never have that debate anymore in America. The effect of tax policy on behavior in a country and how it can drive productive people out of the country, out of the workforce. We haven't had that debate. We're talking about garbage. We're talking about whether Trump said, oh, I'm going to do this for women, whether they like it or not. Where's a debate on policy like you just had? We used to have that debate. That was the Reagan debate with the tax cuts of 1981 that helped regular people become productive again in society.
No, John, that's interesting. So basically, celebrity has taken over politics and we're not having a serious debate. That's really what you're saying.
Yep. Celebrities taken over, policy, despite all this complaint, where's her position on this and that? There are no positions by anybody. It's, I have a concept of a plan. If Reagan had tried that stuff in 1980, they would have eviscerated him. He put out specific plans. I worked on plans. Maybe they never got enacted because you don't have that much power, but it was more substance. Yeah. Now it's, as you put, showmanship.
Very, very interesting thoughts, John. Thank you for joining us and sharing those
Thank you.
with us. It's quite difficult to argue against him. I mean, it is actually, you know, which personality do you want to vote for?
Can I just make a serious point about that,
Yeah.
Trump? It's remarkable. And I'm just going to judge it not on policy, I'm going to judge it on the showmanship. But not even the joke. I mean, it was funny.
Yeah.
But you watch the run up to it, and this is reflective of Trump's strengths, and people who have kind of Trump derangement syndrome never, that is completely at their expense, because if you don't take him seriously, you'll never beat him. But he has them. It's disarming. It's self-deprecating. It's sensitive. Like, he's kind of whispering at points. He's taking the mickey out of himself, and he has people who were not interested in politics for years and years in the putty of his hand, and that is so rare. Boris, who obviously big Boris fan, I watched him have those moments, but for it to, right at the end of this election, for him to be just completely nailing it like that. I think that shows a very confident Trump.
Well, he is confident. I mean, look, John said there's no policy. There are policy differences on the border, etc., but there's not detailed debate. I'm guessing you're a bit of a Kamala fan.
No. Look, well, obviously, I've been in America, obviously, campaigning.
Well, of course,
but I think for me, look, the bigger, which I will proud, not most of the Labour Party, but some, and I'll proudly defend our democratic right to go over to American campaign. No, the right-wing president like it. Happy to make them angry any day. But just coming on to Donald Trump, look, I think my concern is that whether he's good at, his showmanship stuff, and very clever, clearly very clever, very funny, and all these things, and that's fine. But we are talking about a serious thing here. We're talking about leading a country. For me, we're talking about things like NATO, we're talking about things like Ukraine, we're talking even about our economy and what kind of tariffs they're going to put on trade and all this kind of stuff, and just the unpredictability. And that's my concern with him. It's not that I'm this passionate, raving Democrat. I'm baffled. I understand why people would like him and find him funny and interesting and whatnot, but I am deeply concerned about what it will mean if he wins, and I'm still hoping he doesn't.
What I would say to you is we're in a fortunate position. We're one of the countries that he really likes. He genuinely likes us. He'd love to do a trade deal with us. He'd love to have a great relationship. It's not going to be easy for the Starmer government and for David Lammy. It won't be easy. It'll take time, but it won't be impossible, is what I'd say. Thank you to both of my guests for coming on and engaging energetically in debate. Now, I'm not going to be with you next week because I'm going to be in Florida. Well, where else am I going to be? I've got to be there for the American election. I've got to be there to see my friend become the 47th President of the United States of America, which I have little doubt he is going to succeed with. The polls say it's close. Well, certainly it will be close, but I do think this time it's his. And I think there's something there of the confidence you can see in him, the fact that he's telling jokes about himself with 5 days to go, that says quite a lot. And with the Democrats, well, forget Biden. I mean, he's not really with it. But when, senior Democrat figures start saying that Trump rallies are like Nazi rallies, they're in a little bit of trouble. Now, before I'm done, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is here in the studio with me. State of the Nation coming up after the news.
Well, we're going to be talking about the consequences of the budget. The gilt markets have put a higher interest rate on gilts than when Liz Truss was Prime Minister. And this is really important because interest rates were going up when Liz was Prime Minister. Now they've been coming down, and that this has reversed that trend. It's widened the gap between us and other countries. The pound has been weaker. This budget hasn't gone down well because it's going to damage growth, damage the British economy, damage livelihoods, and the markets are reacting. And old Starmer, who was so critical of Liz Truss, turns out to be doing worse.
Yes, it's early days.
It's early days.
It's early days at the moment. At this stage of a reaction to a budget, it is going down worse than the Truss budget.
But it's a terrible budget because it's going to have damaging long-term consequences.
The sums don't add up.
£162 billion of extra borrowing.
I know, it's crackers. I'll see you. I'll report live in from Florida next week. First, before I go, the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Next 24 hours bring more of the same sort of weather for many of us. Overcast, rain and wind in the far north, but some brighter spells at times. elsewhere. There have been some brighter spells through the day. They're tending to remain in places overnight, but for the vast majority it stays cloudy and it's wet and windy in the far north of Scotland. Some heavy rain moving into the mainland of northern Scotland as well as Orkney, the Outer Hebrides overnight, accompanied by a strong wind. That rain also reaching parts of northwest England and Northern Ireland, some drizzly stuff over the hills. Further